employee benefits. This is a big issue. It costs a lot of money. And of all things, a lot of people, especially your experienced people that are in the workforce for a number of years, they're looking for places that pay them well and provide benefits. Benefits is a huge expense on a personal basis. It's also a huge expense from the employer's perspective as you go through. It's so much that for every dollar that you spend, you're spending almost half that amount again on top of benefits as you go through. It's 46.4% on the average for every payroll dollar. That means if you have a $100,000 a year salary, it sounds good. I'm making $100,000 a year, but you're probably not. You're probably making $146,400 a year because the employer has to pay the benefits on top of that. But wait, there's more. This is nice to sit down and talk about the benefits. You also have to pay somewhere, depends where you're living and what state you're in. In California, it's about 22% on top of that because of all the different state aspects when you're paying for payroll, federal, FICA taxes, and so on. So you're paying a lot more money than is shown by the actual dollar amount. Employees don't always appreciate that. It's part of your job in HR to sit down and make certain they do. Tell them what great benefits they have, brag about them. And yes, pat the company on the back as you go through, because otherwise they'll hear that magic flute over there on the other side that the grass is greener here. And look at this, we're going to give you $120,000 salary. But they don't say, and we have a really cheesy insurance package, no dental, no vision. But too bad, we're going to pay you well. People will be lured by the sound of the money, but may not listen to the overall compensation package as you go through. A lot of times, pay for attention as to what you're looking at when it comes to benefits as you go through. Benefits, there's more regulation of benefits than direct pay, so it's harder to sit down there and manage as you go through because it takes a lot of handling as you go through. It's almost obligatory for employers to have it, especially if you want people to consider you for a lifetime employment or long-term employment. And by the way, you're going to find out this chapter, they're hard to understand. There's so many of them. You have a menu as you go through. And by the time you're done, if you create an employee handbook, and by the way, employee handbooks, as soon as you publish the things, they become outdated the next day because something changes as you go through. Make certain they're on a wiki in the process or some type of electronic documentation because there's modification needed just about almost every month as you go through. But that being said, an employee is going to sit there and look at that, and you'll see as you go through, by the time they read page 3 of the benefits, their eyes will magically glaze over and they'll fall into a trance and maybe fall asleep reading them as you go through. They're fabulous for sleep aids, reading all the benefit packages you have. Oh yeah, as you go through. Look on the growth as you go through. The growth year by year by year, it just grows, and it becomes a bigger chunk of the overall compensation package as you go through. You need to pay attention to this area because people want it. And if you're serious in a tight labor market, you need to have a pristine package to go through along with a nice salary package on top of that. Otherwise, somebody's going to poach somebody off as you go through, especially your older workers when there's more of a need for benefits as they have dependents that rely on them for different benefits as you go through for medical and other regards of that as you go through. It really came through from it really grew in the Social Security Act and other legislation. And during World War II, we went through a change as a nation, and we started looking at big picture as we started developing what we call a social safety net as you go through. There's a whole series of benefits. We look on the government had to step in after the recession, and because of the fact that people weren't saving for their retirement, and all of a sudden they had hundreds of thousands of Americans that were sitting down with no benefits. They were devastated by the Depression era, and then you had World War II following shortly after that. So you had a whole series of things. So here is, by the time we're all done, when it comes down to the different aspects of the cost, somebody's got to pay the bill. Nominal tax rate you go through, this is about $80,000, 25%. If you're in New York, look at that. You pay a special tax because you get to live in New York with all that snow and ice. Sorry, guys. Okay, Social Security, 6.2, Medicare, your total tax rate, look at the rate. That rate, somebody pays the bill for that. A lot of times it's not really the employee, but you do by taxes and everything else. Your employer does by the time you're all done. So there's an additional cost to your employer as you go through. Benefits are fabulous, they're wonderful, and they cost lots of money as you go through. So that being said, it grew from the 30s to the 50s until we are here today as you go through a lot of factors. So I want you to keep this in mind, not just here, but long-term. Benefits to add 46%, 46.4% to every payroll dollar. And by the time it's all done with everything else, it's about 31 or really 32% of all compensation as you go through. It's a big cost that you'll have to watch as you go through, and it's highly desired, and it's part of HR's job to sit down there to administer it, to also develop it as you go through in the process. So it's a big thing. It's a real plus for employees, but it's a real cost for the employer. Take care.